Hello, I'm Kai, the producer of Balancing Life's Issues, here with Wendy Wollner to balance the issue. Hey, Wendy, how you doing?
Good, but you're more than a producer. You're my friend and colleague and chit-chatter on this. So thanks for joining today, Kai.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for that. And so, the point of today's brief little podcast is we're going to talk about an issue and how you could potentially balance that. So what issue are we going to talk about today?
Wow. So this morning I got up like probably the rest of the whole world with why we shouldn't panic, which I always think is interesting when we turn on the news and the other podcasters, and they're all telling us how to feel. And yet the reality is banks closed, banks went out of business. And we saw it on television. We saw investors losing money. So I think panic may be actually maybe an appropriate emotion. So I thought we would chit chat today about what we do with our panic and how we can learn from it and really engage in a conversation that I'm so passionate about, which is money.
Fair enough.
You love talking about money, right, Kai?
I used to hate it. And I think there's probably a little bit of humility, a little bit of shame there because I wasn't very good with it. But as I kind of figured it out, I'm now actually happy to talk about it.
I think shame is one of the most complicated emotions that we have. So we don't take a financial literacy class. I'm not even really sure people know how to write a check today anymore. It's Venmo and Zelle. We kind of all learn it by ourselves. So to me, it's really sort of interesting that, I don't know who's taking a class in what a good FICO score is. And yet we're supposed to know this. And so I really wanted to talk about, learning personal finance and budget and frugality. Frugality is one of my favorite topics. Like, how do I live not on my paycheck, not within my paycheck, but below the paycheck so that when the blank hits the fan, we're like, okay.
Right. There's something there to rely on. The only financial class I think I remember was 5th grade. Mrs. something taught us how to write checks. Other than that, you get to college, you have your student debts. If all of your expendable is going to tuition, well, then you need a credit card in order to buy groceries. And that was the position I found myself in, got as high as $16,000. And I was with my partner at the time, and we had to have a serious conversation. Like, we can't, continue down a path together financially and achieve our goals and dreams.
Yeah.
If your debt is like this. And so that was kind of the moment where it flipped for me. And I taught myself, self-budgeting and, really committed to knocking that away, $800, $900 a month. And about 5 years later, we got to the other side. But it was a really tough time.
Yeah. And you were lucky to have a supportive partner. You're also lucky enough to have that idea of, you just said, self-taught. So I didn't have that experience. I was not even 35 when I got divorced with 3 young children. And I remember going to the bank saying, I don't really understand anything. We always say step number 1 is swallow every bit of shame and own the fact that every question is a fair question. Understanding even on a granular level, like Fair Isaacs or FICO is a good thing. It's an algorithm, right? It means that we don't take into account gender or race or age, that we use an algorithm, a mathematical algorithm to say, yes, I trust Kai to pay his bills. Mm-hmm. So I want to make it real for people. You have to sit down tomorrow with a cup of chamomile tea and go to annualcreditreport.com, and it's not free. You're going to need to know what is your FICO score, and you're going to need to know what is a good FICO score. And, we want to try to get it up there above 750. That's our goal. And that's okay, because we can do that. We can get ourselves access to money. And when we're talking about panic sets in when we know we need to learn something. Panic sets in when we've gained too much weight, when we're drinking too much, when we've let conflict go. So let's really engage. Let's use this opportunity to ask one another, hey, what's your FICO score? And will you share it with me? And will you share with me what you did? Mm-hmm. Let's just make it part of our conversation. What's your FICO score and what would you like it to be? And let's share that information.
That's amazing. And I think you bring that kind of openness to tough conversations. And I think your ability to walk into a bank and say, hey, I don't know what the hell's going on. It's speaks volumes to the path you've been on, kind of getting to that place, because I know it wasn't easy to begin with. But to continue balancing this issue, like the topical one, the one that's in the news, like, can you help explain to us in like as simple terms as possible, like what's happening with the banks right now?
Yeah, well, I think it's always very interesting. And again, I think the first step to say is that nobody knows more than you, right? There's no one out there. There's no fortune teller that's going to tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. So let's just start with like a Silicon Valley bank, right? Which had a lot of investors from Silicon Valley. That's why it was called Silicon Valley Bank. And so, we kind of got used to these incredible success stories, the Googles and the Facebooks and the Silicon Valley stories like that. And then in came so many other companies like the cybersecurity ones and the AI and artificial intelligence ones. And so there were a lot of high risk. And so the step number 2 is, I have to be an honest investor. I'm a super conservative investor. You've got a choice. Like, do you want to know your money is safe? Are you a little bit of an aggressive investor, or are you a super aggressive investor? In Silicon Valley, they took some risks. So know where your money is. As an investor, as an employee, ask the question. Go to your managers, managers, look online, do some Glassdoor reviews, do some due diligence about where your payroll is coming from. How much risk is your company involved in? And are you comfortable with that risk? Does it fit what you want?
Yeah. Yeah. So ask my employer today, is payroll safe? Know where my investments are going if I have them. So I guess just to kind of wrap this up, should I be worried? And if so, what's one thing I can do today to help protect myself?
So I know that what I'm about to say may hit people like a punch. Being worried is not always a bad thing. Being stressed is not always a bad thing. Being concerned or even panicked. Sometimes we need to be. When I had a FICO score of 350 with 3 young children, it was panic, the emotion of panic that made me say, I have to make changes. So I'm not telling you to panic and do nothing. I'm telling you to be worried and concerned enough to learn what you need to know. And I'm absolutely encouraging you to sit on the phone with your bank, with your credit cards, ask the tough questions, and do not feel any shame or embarrassment to say, I don't understand. Tell me again. Help me understand. How do I get out of debt? How quickly can I get out of debt? Is things like a consolidation loan possible? A debt management program possible? Talk to your employer about, can I take a loan out from you? How quickly can I live debt-free to get my FICO score up into the 700s? Because then I will have access to capital no matter what. So begin the process. I know that you may be surprised to hear it is one of the things I'm most proud of in my life that I've done. I've learned how to be financially independent. I learned it by saying, I have no clue what you're talking about. Please tell me again. And have a little fun with it, because in the end, it's an amazing process. Like, aren't you super proud of what you've done?
I love once a month setting up the expenses for the coming month. I love looking at it every morning to see, how much did we spend over the weekend on Mondays? And most importantly, with a baby on the way in our life, kind of starting to plan ahead come July, there's a big old new line item that we're going to have to consider. And that money's not coming from, a new place. That's money that exists today that we have to figure out how to spend differently. So, well, Wendy, thank you so much for coming on to help us balance this issue today. And yeah, I guess we'll see you next time there's something in the news we need to talk about.
Good. Go ask the tough questions, everyone. Bye.
This has been a production of Balancing Life's Issues with your host, Wendy Wollner, produced by me, Kai Sorensen. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, and you'll get brand new episodes as they drop. Got an idea for the show? Leave a comment or email Kai, Kai, at balancinglifesissues.com.